Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate the caldera cone original aluminum with the modified zelph stove from Starlight and the evernew titanium pot. It says 800 on here, but it is really actually a 900 milliliter mug pot. So I am not sure why this bag is with this pot, because it is way too big, and it weighs about 0.8 ounces, and it's a little heavy for a bag, especially a mesh one. So yeah, simple 900 milliliter pot, titanium. So open this up. This is the original stove that came with it, the 1012 stove. This weighs about 15 grams. I'm not going to be using this on my trip. I'm hiking the Colorado Trail this summer. So, here it is. You take the two edges of the dovetail, the one with the spiked end here goes, I believe it's the smaller end, and you slide these two together and they go like that. This works by sort of trapped heating. So you have the alcohol stove down here and the pot on the top. So this is my modified zelph stove. This stove tends to have a longer boil time, but it doesn't come up to a boil quite as fast. So, and the caddy that this comes with can be a dual purpose storage device for the caldera cone, but you can also use it as a mug. You put your cocoa in there, or coffee, whatever, and then you can put your Ziploc with food in it down into here, and then spread it around the sides, and then pour your water in. So it works quite well with that too. And a little measuring cup that comes with. Alright, so here is the little measuring cup that I'll be using. I do not know the weight of it, but it's just a light little thing. So here's the fuel bottle I'll be using. It's about 8 ounces worth, and I don't know the weight of that either. So I'll be pouring an ounce of fuel into here. Let's see if we can rotate it. Actually, yeah, so we're going to be using an ounce. So we got 1 ounce. And here we have our zelph stove. Now I have to say that when pouring fuel into the zelph stove, you have to be a little bit careful not to overshoot it, or else it'll kind of go everywhere. That's not the best thing. So yeah, that wasn't bad. So this test is occurring after I poured the fuel out of the fuel cup, and this basically will show the non-tippability, or not tippability, but spillability of the stove. So I'm turning it over with the 1 ounce of fuel in here. And nothing's coming out, so that's nice. Now this pot does have indentions on the inside here, and the 15, 2 cups lands right on the 15. I've already tested this out, so that's kind of nice. Even though 2 cups really is 16 ounces, I'm not sure why that is, but it works. So Alright, so we got our pot full of water, 2 cups, fold out the handles. We got our stove full of 1 ounce of fuel. And so we're gonna light up the stove, and I have my watch handy to time it to see when it boils. Hold your hand up a couple inches, not inches, about a foot above the stove, and then kind of go down to see if it's burning or not. You'll be able to tell pretty quickly. So we got our caldera cone. Put the pot in there like that and cover it. Alright, we are approaching 6.5 minutes, and let's see how it is. It is not boiling yet, obviously. I'll give it a little time. I think it'll start boiling. Alright, 13 minutes, and I'd say that's a boil. So, 13 minutes. Boils, so let's see how long it lasts. Alright, it has basically just died. And it is 15 minutes and 25 seconds. So, maybe the stove isn't quite as long lasting as I thought. It is a little bit windy out here. It's probably about 50 some degrees, but that shouldn't make that much of a difference, the wind. So I'm gonna do a test of the 1012 stove now. Alright, so once again, filling this up to the top. It's 1 ounce. And pouring it into my 1012. So now we will be using the 1012 stove, and I'll light that up. This is supposed to be a faster burning stove. Now, whether it is or not, I don't know quite sure. It is a little bit easier to light, notice that right off the bat, and we have 2 cups of water again. And I'm resetting my stopwatch. Alright, first impressions on this pot. If you're thinking about getting a pot, this is 900 milliliters, of course, and I think that's perfect for 1 person. If you're going to be using it to cook other things besides just boiling water for mountain houses and things like that. So, you know, cooking ramen and polenta, it'd be good in here. This pot maxes out at 4 cups. It does have a little pour spout right here, and definitely pretty sturdy handles. They do get a touch hot, but nothing that can't be cooled down in like a minute or so. So that's not really a big deal. I have to say though that this lid does tend to be a little poppy if you don't have the titanium kind of molded into the right shape for it. So for me, just setting it down here is just fine. But you may want to have a complete seal on it or something, I don't know. It is pretty thin, as you'd expect, you know. So it does heat up pretty fast, and it does cool down pretty fast. But it weighs in at 3 ounces, or 3.5 ounces actually. So compared to the MSR Titan kettle, which weighs, I think it's a little over 4 ounces. You may be saving a little bit there, pretty comparable on price, even though this pot is the only pot that you can't get this pot anywhere else besides on traildesigns.com, and I'm not like sponsored or something, I don't know, but you can't really get it anywhere else because evernew kind of got destroyed a couple years ago. Besides that, it's a pretty simple pot. And this cost me about $64, I think. The MSR Titan kettle, which is 8.85 liter, 850 milliliters. It costs somewhere in the ballpark of $60, so a little bit less, but I didn't pay tax for this. So you may keep that in mind. Alrighty, all of a sudden it just started boiling at about 11 minutes and 35 seconds. So that's not bad. It's about a minute and a half less than the Starlight. But we'll see how long it lasts, because this stove it tends to run out of fuel faster, so we'll see how long it lasts. As predicted, it did cut out a little bit early, about 13 minutes and 40 seconds. So, overall, several minutes less than the Starlight. Alrighty, so as far as price goes, I got the caldera cone set up. This is including the one fuel cup, these two caddies, or these two halves of caddies, the caldera cone, and this fuel bottle, of course not including the fuel. That cost me about, and the 1012 stove. That cost me about $34 online. I bought it with this pot, and I got a discount of like $6 or something. So it's a nice setup, I think. There's also the the titanium setup of this. If you want to, you can add the Inferno, which is a wood burning stove. You can do an as-bit stove underneath, or you can do the alcohol stove, of course. So, but that costs quite a bit extra. So just as a little demonstration to be careful of alcohol stoves, there is no flame, or looks like there's flame, but when you stick something above it for very long, it kind of catches on fire. So just be careful. Okay, so for weights, we'll start off with the 1012 stove. And a little comment on this stove, it's just designed, I'm sorry if this is a long video, but it's designed to have these wind channel through, or just air channel through these holes and come out on inside the holes on the other side. It's sort of like having air under a fire to get it going. So that's the idea. And it weighs 15 grams. And that may be why it burns faster, is because it has airflow. We have the modified Starlight stove with the lid. It is 15 grams. And for those of you that want to know what it weighs without the lid, it's 12 grams. So you got 3 grams of lid, 2 grams of lid. For the measuring cup, we got 2 grams. For the 2 halves of the caddies, we have 87 grams, or that translates into 3.2 ounces. .1 ounces actually. I got my pot, which doesn't come with the kit, obviously. 3.4 ounces. I said 3.5. Sorry. And the actual caddy itself, 1.9 ounces. So all of this together, which I'll show you here in a second, how to pack it all up. All this together, I'm not sure what it weighs actually. And I have this spork here, which is 0.5 ounces. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to fold the caldera cone into the two halves of the caddies and fit everything in there, and I'll tell you what the weight is at the end of it. So after you've taken your caldera cone apart, you kind of want to put it together and fold it up. Till it's fairly tight at the bottom. Doesn't really matter so much at the top because it'll be smaller than the bottom anyway. So just enough so you can fit it in your caddy. Pick your desired stove, drop it in, and you really do want to center the stove, not, just flop it in there because it'll be a hassle. So put your caldera cone in. They say to put the small end in on the website and spread it out, but I almost find it easier to put the bottom end in, and then, because when you put the other half on, it's not as big on the top, so it won't be such a pain. I then put my fork in and put my measuring cup in. Then I throw this on the top. Now, I don't put my fuel bottle in this because I may be eating out of this. I'm not sure, but I don't want to really spill fuel into what I might be eating out of, if that makes sense. Okay, once again for weights, I have the entire caldera cone system set up, and we have 6.1 ounces. I'm going to be including this pot on the top of it with the lid, and that's 9.5 ounces. Okay, so I have filled up this fuel container, and now it weighs 14.5 ounces, and I think I was wrong about this being an 8-ounce container. I think it's more like a 4-ounce container. So for the purposes that I'm going to be using this stove for, which is polenta and ramen, I feel that this stove is a better stove. Whereas the 1012 stove, it would be better for mountain houses and cold weather if you just want to boil your water faster and kind of be done with the boiling. So that's my take on it. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And if you want to, you can subscribe.